Hey, what is up guys, Speed here, and today we're going to be looking at Liquid versus Na'Vi. What I really want to pay attention to today is how MICKE is always, like every single game with a few exceptions, the top net worth player in the game. Always. Now yes, Liquid does pick him farming greedy heroes, but how do they play around this? How do they enable him to have space? When do they make stacks for him? When does he leave his lane? When does he jungle? I'm going to try to answer all these questions and give you guys some really good perspective so that you can apply it into your pubs as well. And yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing I'd like to note about this game is the matchups. Sven is a very weird hero because some games he can fight early on and stomp, some games he needs a lot of items. This game is one of those games where he needs a lot of items, and I mean a lot, right? Phoenix, hard Sven counter in the early game. Drow, hard Sven counter in the early game. Venge, swap is brutal, tiny. It's just even Boris, horrible Sven game. Until he has items. Then it becomes very good because they have a Drow and a Phoenix and he can close the gap on them. But the problem is, in the early game, he can't. So what do you think his game plan is going to be? Do you think he's going to run around engaging fights for the first 15 to 20 minutes? No, he's going to dodge. He's going to avoid them at all costs. And I think that's what a lot of players don't do. They don't really, and maybe you don't have the capability to look at the matchups. Hopefully you'll learn that over time with me on this channel. And yeah, remember to like and subscribe. By the way, guys, I just want to say quickly on the website, I made another one of these videos that is super in-depth, especially about Koifa and mid lane. So if you're interested in mid lane flash farming and how to become more of a position 1 from the mid lane, how to snowball much harder, I made a video on the GameLeap website, so go sign up to it down below right now. All right, let's get into the video. So before we get into the farming patterns, I do want to discuss how he puts pressure on this Beastmaster. This entire laning stage, he's been stomping him. Look at the CS, 42 and 28. How crazy is that? 28! And what you want to know here is that when you get this big of a lead, you should actually try to kill them. A lot of the time people are like, oh, I have a good lead on Sven, I'll go jungle. And that can be true if your matchup's really poor or you're both farmed. But in this game, with 28 denies and phase boots, he clearly wants to go aggressive. And I love this mentality, right? I really love this, where you even itemize, with something like phase boots, to go aggressive. And him and the Oracle are going to work together. And that's all they need to get this kill. He pops his ulti, leads him with a stun, the Oracle channels the Q, and because he has phase boots, he can run up down. With treads, he would get slowed way too much. So that's beautiful, right? Him understanding that, okay, I've won my lane, I can continue to win my lane, and that's a big thing to do, right? If you learn how to have a very strong laning stage by watching other videos, whatever it is, just playing the game a lot, you can begin to do what you just saw there. Now, funny enough, this game, he actually gets his jungle completely invaded. The Tiny ran in, the Beastmaster had run in earlier, but the Storm actually rotated over here, which is a cool concept. It's an interesting thing to note, basically even almost able to get an extra kill with the stun. But anytime you're going to farm stacks, if you are getting invaded, do try to let your team know. But this is very uncommon in pubs. You'll never, basically never, unless you're 6k plus, get invaded this early into the game. Unless they've stomped 3 lanes, then maybe, yeah, it's going to happen. But assuming the game's even, or even you're ahead, it's probably not going to happen. But okay, you can see right away what I like about Liquid, and you'll see this a lot with them, is they give MICKE mid. Right? So this is something you guys can apply into your pubs. So you can tell your mid laner, especially if you don't feel comfortable in the safe lane, which I think he shouldn't. He can easily get smoke ganked with a roar setup. Very straightforward for the enemy team. He goes mid, because mid's a lot safer. It's easier to control with wards, in my opinion. It's harder to gank because the tower is much closer to you. There's nowhere you can really wrap. Very awkward in that regard. And you can be anywhere. Right? If you farm top and they see you in the top wave, they know where you are. But if you push in the mid wave and then back to your tier 1, you could go to the left or to the right, and they could guess wrong. But yeah, at this point in the game, he's just taking stacks. And, it's one of those things where every game, if you guys are playing on a team or a stack or a pub, here's what I recommend you do. If you are a carry player and you know you need stacks or want stacks of Ancients, you need to tell your team constantly to do it. Not every 3 seconds, but every 30 seconds or a minute. Right? Or when the stack is coming up, not literally at 11:53. Don't tell them at 11:53. Tell them at 11:30, right? If you want them to stack 8:30, 7:30. Say, hey, could you stack this? Right? Like, hey, could you stack this? It will help my game. Something friendly like that. And I've had a lot of success doing that, where I kind of like, consistently remind people. Not in an agitated way. I'm not flaming them. But I am letting them know what I think they should do. But yeah, because he can farm around mid, it's very convenient. It's super hard for the enemy team to predict where he's going. There's so many camps around. He's got this mask, very early Mask of Madness. Great laning stage as well, and he can just go from camp to camp to camp to camp. Even another stack on the small camp stacks his own ancients as well, and he's off to the races. And you can see, what is his playstyle, guys? Is he running around trying to kill people? Like, shouldn't he do that, right? Isn't that what most pub players would do? They'd run around, they'd like, I have a good start. I have my Mascamanus Echo Saber, I can kill them. No, that's the way he throws this game. And, you know, this is really the thing about drought comps against Sven, and I hope you guys are learning from this. And it applies to any sort of kite comps against Sven, Venno, a lot of these type of heroes you have to be very careful with. If you fight into them, even when you think you're strong, you're gonna feed. And you're gonna be very sad. By the way, he's popped his ulti nearly off cooldown, even 16 minutes into the game! 16 minutes into the game! He's popping his ultimate to farm. And I recently played with a low Mars Sven, he just didn't even use it once. Made me sad, I'm like, you got a snowball. And you can see his farming pattern is very, very clean. Pushes in the triangle, clears that out, pushes in mid-wave if it's under his tower, right? If it's under his tower. The only time you want to go if it's not under your tower is if you see them in other lanes, right? Then off to these side camps, clears this out. After that, he'll often shift back to the mid lane, right? Very clean. Then he'll wait, and okay, in this case, he has his Ags, he smokes. Very nice, right? Because this is the first time in the game he can actually close the gap. And yeah, that's what they're gonna play around. They E in, they look for a kill, don't find anything right away, right? No big deal, he's gonna get a D ward. Even this mid tower push, in my opinion, is a little bit dangerous, but he's gonna go in anyway. He's confident. And upcoming here is another tip if you want to get really farmed in your games. What happens with a lot of players is that after they take an engagement or push a tower, where do they go, right? What they would do is they'd push this tier 1 mid here, then they would literally run it down mid. Or they would run at the first hero they see, because people have a really hard time going from farming to fighting to farming to fighting to farming to fighting. Usually it's like farm, and then fight for like 10 minutes straight, right? It's one or the other. You have to learn to balance if you want to become a high MMR player. You have to learn how to, rotate off one to the other. Not always, right? Sometimes you want to fight. Right? Maybe you're against an Alk and you need to continue to shut down his jungle. Okay, but if you're playing Sven in a game like this, right? He's like, maybe I'll push in top. Then he sees his team sort of fighting bottom, so he pushes in bottom, right? He's like, if I need to show up to the fight, I'm pretty close. If I don't, I can push in the bot wave, right? And he can clear through the jungle, back to the wave, wraps around just so he doesn't get ganked, off to the triangle, farms more, right? Even more. And I know this is very uncomfortable for a lot of people. A lot of people will be like, but my team's getting ganked and I need to help them. Sometimes your team just overextends. If you're constantly with them, you're going to become underfarmed. So really, there's no perfect solution. There's no perfect answer. You have to do your best to smoke with your team around your timings, which you did. And then when things break down and there's seemingly not going to be another fight, you farm. And when you're farming, if they decide to do something crazy like they do here, it is what it is. You can come in late if you need to, right? Joining the fights late is not the end of the world. You could see him doing it here, even picking up a kill into the Phoenix on the way out. And those sort of kills are what makes you really farmed, because you get solo XP, you get solo gold, and all of a sudden at the 20-minute mark, he is almost 15,000 net worth. Only, like, what is that? 750 GPM? If I'm not mistaken, around there. Pretty ridiculous. And once again, we see, you see how it's smooth? Everything's so smooth. Around the 22-minute mark here, he gets his BKB and they smoke again. Liquid's game plan and gameplay revolves so much around MICKE's timings, and it makes sense. That's what I love about Liquid. It makes sense when they do stuff. And most tier 1 teams are good at this too, obviously. It's not like Liquid wins all their games. But I hope that makes sense, right? Sven BKB timing, immediately smokes out. Now from the Roche pit, they can look for a jump. He gets on top of the Drow. Actually couldn't pop her. Unfortunately, a very nice BKB, but I do believe they end up killing this egg. And at this point, the fight's just sort of cleanup crew. He's very, very strong at this point. And I would actually like to quickly go back to that fight and make sure you guys understand why this is so important. All of this is not as simple as it may seem, or at least, the play is simple, but the concept and execution of it is not necessarily simple. At least a lot of people get it wrong. So when they hit this BKB timing, how come they don't just smoke into the enemy team's jungle? Now you might be saying speed is because they want Aegis. Yeah, but it's gonna get contested 9 times out of 10 in the pro scene, okay? In pubs, you could just sneak Roshan most of the time, honestly. You could just solo smoke it and take it. It works. But at this level, they basically always will contest it. They are keeping track of when it's alive. However, it's the positioning that is key. Roshan positioning and the ability to position around Roche and force the enemy team into you. That's the key concept. Force the enemy team into you is a really big deal. And so they're Roshing here, taking it slowly. And you can see, as his team gets the jump and the enemy team splits up, he's instantly in. And this is because they have a vision advantage. You see this ward? They put down this ward because they expect them to come through here. Of course, how could you not expect them to come through here? Put down this ward, scout out the Drow. They understand that Drow is the key hero. She doesn't have Manta, she doesn't have BKB. So they find the Drow, he can go in, focus the Drow with the rest of his team, good swap. But yeah, now he just auto attacks. Obviously nothing too insane at this point. He's just punching the first thing he sees, literally just stunning the closest person. And that's generally how you play Sven. You look for the best target when you have your Ag's BKB. Then when you don't have your BKB, you just stun the person closest to you so you don't overextend. And yeah, that's going to be about the end of this video as they take one more good fight. Huge black hole. Oh, mwah, absolutely beautiful. You gotta love to see it. And yeah, that is where Na'Vi calls a GG. There's nothing they can do to stop this Sven. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this gives you some cool ideas, some cool clarity, so that you can go into your games with a plan. You know, I want to make sure people have a plan in their games and they're not just running around like chickens without their heads, as the saying would go. But thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to help support our channel. And yeah, sign up to the GameLeap website. Peace. Before you leave, just want to say a quick message. If you're trying to get better at Dota or you just enjoyed that video, I know this is pretty general and you're going to hear this quite a bit from me, but I recommend you sign up to GameLeap.com. Why? Because I put a lot of effort into the content over there, and generally the effort I do there is different from the content you're going to see here on YouTube. It is different. In fact, I usually go a lot more in depth on topics or into niche topics that help you get to the next level even faster. Because on YouTube, I often have to keep it more mainstream, and that's even why I'm putting it at the end of this YouTube video. That's why this is at the end, because a lot of people just watch 5 minutes, they skip through just for like the dopamine spike. But if you are interested in actually getting better at Dota, I recommend you go to the description down below, get your discount right now by clicking the link, sign up, use the discount code that you're gonna see there, and I hope to see you there right now. So click it, and yeah, thanks for watching.